All right, this side is dry, so I am going to flip that over so we can paint the the other side of it. And I'm going to be using a makeup sponge. These come in all different kinds of shapes, so it doesn't matter what shape you have. I happen to have these little wedgy triangle ones. With painting with a makeup sponge, you are more likely to get paint on your hands because your hand is closer to the paint surface itself. So if that's a concern for you, wear gloves. It's not a concern for me. So I will probably end up with painty hands, and that's just fine. So I'm going to do the same thing where I'm just going to put a blob of paint. I'm going to mush it around with this paint wedge, this makeup wedge, and blend in a very similar way to what I did on this side. But of course, I'm not going to have these brush strokes because I'm not using a brush. I'm using this sponge daubery kind of thing. So I'm just going to, I'm going to just work the same way. The magenta ended up being just fine. So I'm just putting this tinted pink away. I'm not even going to use it. And I don't think I'm even going to use the white. I'm just going to stick with these three colors and have a very vibrant art journal. Okay, so I'm going to start with yellow this time. So I'm going to put yellow in the middle. That was a lot of yellow. So I'm just taking it and smearing. Yeah. Just taking it and smearing it, going into the paint and just smearing it. Now I have a feeling this is way more yellow. That was a big blob. Didn't need to do that much, but that's okay. We're gonna make it work. And because I talked about the color, you know, the color, the way our eye is blending colors, the layers and the way the pigment blends, I'm not going to talk about all that. So I may move a little bit faster on this side because I've explained a lot of stuff already. All right, so my spongy guy is starting to not have as much paint in it. So again, I want to get rid of, if there is some extra pigment in here, some extra paint in here, because I want my colors not to mix, you know, a whole bunch. It's okay if they mix a little bit. So I'm going to just dab off on the paper here and get some of that extra off. And I'm kind of pushing down, giving it a fairly good push here. And as I'm painting off onto this paper. All right, so let's pick up with, I'll put the magenta on this side since it already has magenta here. Not as much paint, Therese. There we go. Okay, and it's going to have a little bit of mixing happening because I do still have some yellow. So we might end up getting a, you know, peachy, pinky color. Now I'm noticing, okay, so this is what I'm noticing. When I'm looking at the way the magenta is, the thickness of the coverage, the opacity of the magenta paint applied with this makeup sponge, this is not giving me as opaque, as solid of a coverage as I got with the brush. So there's more streakiness happening here, so it's not as dense. I'm trying to, you know, come up with words, but so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little more of this magenta paint. And I know I especially want to get at that fold, both sides of that fold, because I'm seeing the cream color of the file folder, and I don't like that. Okay, so doing that, And then I think what I want to do is put a little more magenta. Oops, there we go. That's a little more. So it's interesting how just the applicator tool you're using will make a difference in the translucency or opacity of this paint. Okay, I kind of like this. Okay, liking that. I'm liking that, okay? So I'm liking that a lot. All right. So now I've got this pink on here, and if I go right into the blue, that's going to give me some purple. And I would really like to have maybe some green happening here. And if the purple goes over the yellow, then I'm going to start getting a mud, because now I've got all three primaries, because purple is made from red and blue. And I already have yellow down here. So then if I add the red from this dauber and I add the blue, I'm going to start getting kind of a muddy, what I call a muddy, funky brown color. Now, something about these muddy browns, they are great colors when you're wanting to portray nature, when you're wanting to do leaves, when you're wanting to do botanicals, when you're wanting to do some kind of landscape painting. You can make the most luscious, earthy colors by mixing the three primaries in different proportions together. So just as a side note, that's not necessarily a bad thing. There could be times where you actually want that to happen. I don't want that to happen here. So I'm going to I think what I'm going to do is actually do the washing thing like we did here. Because I think I'm going to get a lot of contamination happening. We could try it and see. We could try putting the blue on here and see what happens. Let's do that. And it may end up being that this ends up very muddy and I don't like it. And if that's the case, I will let it dry completely. And then once it's completely dry, I'll come back over with another layer so I can break up my eye doing the blending and the pigment blending that might be happening from what's left on my sponge. Does that make sense? So I'm going to just try this. Let's see what happens. Let's see if we get a funky, muddy color so you can see what I'm talking about. And if I get something I don't like, I am giving myself full permission to come and paint over it with another layer once this completely is completely dry. Does that sound fair enough? So let's see what we're going to get here. Okay. So I don't know if you can see, I'm starting to get some purple coming through, just starting. So I'm going to see if I can get some of this blue in here before the purple really comes through. And it is, I am getting some mud, what I call mud. Do you see how I'm getting a little bit of the red is coming off the sponge and mixing with the blue? And then it's also filtering with this yellow. So I'm getting kind of a muddy green color happening, as opposed to, see how clear this green is with the brush? Even, you know, this is a cleaner green. This is a muddier green, and this is muddier because there was still so much red pigment on this sponge applicator, on this makeup applicator. So I'm going to put some more blue on here. And I'm lightly flicking the blue over in this area, just so I don't have quite so much yellow. I didn't like quite so much yellow space happening. So I'm just covering the proportion of the yellow. There we go. Okay, so I'm happy with this. So because I did a second coat of the blue, this is much more blue and I'm not getting hints of the purple. They've been covered up with a second coat of the blue paint. The green that's happening here is a little muddied. A little brown is coming through because of the red that was still on the sponge when I added the blue paint. But I think that's okay. I'm not finding it offensive or yucky or anything like that. I'm okay with that. And then I have, this is a pretty yellow-orange color that's happening and going right into the magenta. Now I have a few little like crumb bits from where my sponge is getting degraded. But that's okay. So there's one way to paint multiple colors, and here's another way. The idea is the same in that you just go a little bit at a time, but this one used the brush, the scrubby brush or scruffy brush, and this one used the makeup sponge. So two different applicator tools. And the paint finish is different on both of them because of the different applicator tool. But I think they both, came out great. This has a little more muddiness going on with the sponge.